Welcome to GLUETV. I am Rubiah Balsem, founder of Studio Balsem and also one of the co-curators of this year's edition of the Glue, a design route in September from 14th of September till the 17th of September. And we are interviewing a couple of our sticky members. And today I would like to welcome you, Chen Wang, one of our the sticky members. You are a multidisciplinary artist and designer, and also born and raised in Taiwan. And you focus mainly on research tools to explore and reconstruct the concept of self. With a master's degree in social design from Design Academy in Eindhoven, you also exhibit internationally and participated in many artist residencies. Welcome, and may I say, I love your work. And in your bio, you describe yourself as an artist, designer, factory girl. What do you mean by this?
In artist profile, we can only explain ourselves in a very clear way. So for me, in nowadays, I feel art, design is a bit mingling together, especially in the background that I'm coming from. So it makes sense for me to put artist and designer together. And then the factory girl is the identity, a strong position that I have used recently to do my artwork and design work, because I feel like I'm coming from the background of the factory. So to put, it's like a statement that I put so people can know me better.
So within one of your works, you showcased in the Dutch Design Week in 2022, Disassembling. You also created one of the connotations towards the factory past or one of part of your identity. Could you explain a little bit more to the audience what you're showing here with your work?
So I would like to show is the stories behind the iPhone. Do you know how our iPhone is made and by whom? And then I feel like when everyone we are holding this product that we are so familiar every day, but they are all for me like their lives behind. And then for me, coming from the background of Taiwan and also my home country, there are a lot of manufacturing factories. And then also I have been working with several factories like fashion textile factories. And then so I accumulate this experience embodying in the factory and then accumulating these feelings that I don't quite understand about the system of it and about how I just want to celebrate the workers actually. And I feel like their life is meaningful and then their life should be seen. And then for me, also come back to myself that I just want to give a voice to them. And then as a designer, I feel I have to be very careful too. So that's why I still label myself as a designer, because I am not telling a story about myself, although it has a very personal relation. But at the same time, I am speaking to Western audiences. So this part has to be designed. This physical language, this visual language has to be designed in a way that I also want to challenge it actually, in a way it's comfortable to read, in a way it's approachable, in a way it's showing the real story of the factory. So some stories is maybe screwing the phone for 12 hours a day, all the informations can sometimes be a bit frightened from the background of Western background, which are a bit alienated from that position. So I think there is a lot of care inside this project and a lot of thoughts too. And then also for the migrant workers who I take inspiration with, I also have to respect them. And then so I also have to think what stories is fair enough to show. So I wouldn't make them like a victim again. I mean, there is a lot of so many sensitivity inside. And then so that all these cares I feel is so of course it's coming a lot from inspirations from the books, from my embodiment. But there is the thing that I feel nowadays that these academic parts cannot do is how to put so many notice, unseen notice is something I feel cannot be written. So I feel like for that, it's nice that design is here for us. I can achieve this and to tell the story in another format.
I really love this because you really use your own, I would say your strength as in your own language as designer or as an artist, to give a voice indeed to all these kind of parts, but especially the people behind the whole process of design. And I think in a way, as you describe it, maybe it's also a bit of your critique from a non-Western perspective to the Western part of, I would say, design world. And I think for the audience, and I think many of us, especially at home, who perceive design from that kind of perspective, it's something, it's invisible.
Yeah.
So thank you for showcasing your work and giving a voice to all these kind of factory workers. And one of the things I was very touched by is also that you, within your work, you are very drawn into the idea of self, as the reconstruction of the self you talk about. It's I think in a way talking about identity, and also see that you have like a different kind of personality, and her name is Mel Mel. Who is she? And could you explain a little more about what she does?
Mel Mel is the one, like, she is the one I love her, and I'm trying to love her more, and I'm trying to like, I think with Factory Girl, even though it's under the name of Chen Yu, but Chen Yu is shaped by my cultural background, by my gender, and also by all the historical events that I have been through. And then for that, I think I already put a lot of categories in her. And then, but for Mel Mel, I see her as somebody who has never been through that. She is not in any categories. So I don't have to label her. So for that, she is not a victim of anything. And then I don't have to over-explain her. And I feel this is the part that in another part of my artist practice that I'm practicing now, like this intuitive, this feeling is something that I feel when I was a bit too concentrated on the Factory Girl, the other part has to be balanced in order to have me exist in the world. And I feel like I am aware of Mel Mel more once I do the project of disassembling. And then I think for matter is like a matter of the balance. And then for me, like, I just feel like in this world, we only have one identity? This is the one thing I'm questioning.
One of the things also I noticed within your work, and it's also why you're one of our sticky members, is that you move within different kind of disciplines as well. You work with, I would say, you tap into in the art world as a designer as well, fashion world maybe in that sense. Yeah. Is there, to your perception or to your opinion, a difference between strict difference between the design world and the art world? How do you perceive that? When are you a designer and when are you an artist?
It depends on who I'm talking to. And then, but I really feel like nowadays, design and art, there's not a big separation. But for me, I do, because I treat the term artist in a concept-wise different from I treat in design. I really admire artists of humor of Clint and Louis Bourgeois. And then I feel like they are, in a concept-wise, they are artists who really makes me feel like there is a hope, and they are so honest with their work. And then this honesty is something I celebrated in my work, and I wish I can allow it to happen in both my art and design. It matters on what kind of stories I want to tell. if it's the story about myself, and I will call myself an artist. If it's the story that I have a clear idea that I want to convey, so it has a clear audience, and it has a clear inspiration that I take from, for example, the factory girls or people who inspire me. And then I would like to consider that I would like to use this world. I would like to have this inspiration to treat it more carefully. And then by treating these ideas, these inspirations, and these targets more carefully, then design has to evolve. One thing I realize is after graduation, I'm trying to reshape my idea of design. I feel like coming from this migrant background and then also from the position that as a country we are being colonized and colonized. So I feel like, is there a chance that we validate our voice? So from this part, the first part, I think is important that we can validate our voice, that our voice doesn't have to be agreed by others. So I feel like Design Academy, I like it because I think it really make me powerful to challenge my tutors and then to really text my ideas and then to explain and to try to defend. I really like this process, and this process is also making me more and more powerful to speak up about my ideas, about my feelings, about how I think in general. And then for one thing I realize is this, I just feel like this is the question that I have nowadays is design or art become too academic? Why we have to think about why we are designing, or why we have to think about all these questions before we are making something. I mean, this is the process that I'm also trying to explain. But coming back to the idea, I just feel like...
Continue.
I just feel it is important if we have these feelings, we have something we want to say, we have something we want to explain, and especially all this topic nowadays is about the colonial, it's about this globalization, it's about how Western are trying to understand us. So for this part, do we need to, this is the question that I also have a lot, do we need to, why do we need to
make space or create space for those kind of voices? And I see that you are touched by this.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that you give voices this, but I think especially here nowadays, especially with the current context, I think so many institutions, organizations are much more aware of the fact that we need to create a platform for different kind of perspectives and ideas. And I think especially showcasing your work, especially during the Glue edition, I think for many audiences will make it tangible what you're trying to give an understanding to the audience. So maybe it will be interesting for the audience also to understand where can we see your work during the Glue edition and what can we expect.
In Glue, I am very honored to present my work, and it's going to be an updated version from the disassembling, which I showed in last year. And then it's also going to talk about the stories behind the iPhone, but this time I'm going to focusing on a very important element inside our iPhone, which is the screw. So I'm going to celebrate to pick up this like tiny screw and then to enlarge that, and then to present that in a more with more installation work. Yeah, I'm just going to honor this like because there's a metaphor like the screw.
To screw it.
And the screw is, I talk, every time I talk about this story, I will feel a bit emotional because there's an important part of the stories behind the Foxconn factory workers. Is like they will just take it easy and then just describe themselves as a screw to just be inside these giant factories. But for me, like, the world for me is constructed by this important part of the element. They are beneath the wall, they are under our ground, they are inside the product we use every day, but they are hidden. So in this upcoming exhibition in Vogue, I'm going to celebrate the screw. I'm going to give a platform for that.
Like in the invisible presence.
Yeah.
I love this. So we're really looking forward to your work, and thank you for joining us for this year's Sticky Member. And we will see you in the 14th of September. Thank you very much.
Thank you.